All right, we're going to try this again. I'm going to be honest, this has crashed so many times, like 7 or 8 times. This has crashed. Okie dokie. Hopefully, we don't crash this time. Hopefully, we can actually get through a whole video this time. Wouldn't that be nice? Microsoft Clipchamp sucks. If you guys have recommendations for programs to use that don't crash all the time, that are um, good for recording your screen and yourself through a webcam. It's going to be the main format I operate in with a lot of these projects I'm doing. If you have recommendations, I would love them. Okay. So, I kind of want to clear the air on something. I forgot to fix the typo. I should say abnormal, not abnormal. There. We're going to talk about the sunshine system, what that is, and how complex post-traumatic stress disorder works, where it comes from, and why it requires a public expression of abnormality for me to heal. Um, I understand this was going to be an upsetting journey for a lot of you who knew me as a kid. Okay. If you're my mother, you're my brother, you're my sister, I would ask you skip this one. Okay. I'm not going to be graphic. If you're my brother and my sister, maybe it's okay, but let's save it for therapy. Okay. We're all going to do family therapy together. Okay, let's save it for there. Let's save it for there so I can go, Dr. Lynn, is it okay if I say the thing about the thing? Or do you think we not say that when mom names removed? We don't say that. Okay. So you know what I mean? Like I need someone there because they were part of this system. Okay. And I hear a lot of people saying, move on, put it behind you. And, and that is not the diagnosis or solution or the way to handle what I'm dealing with. Okay. We'll get into why, but I don't want to hear that being thrown to me by family members, extended family members. If you're an extended family member, I really want you to watch this because you're going to be dealing with a new Colten. What seems new to you has actually been around for 35 years. It's just I'm done hiding it from people. I'm going to let y'all see the pain because it's time that y'all did. Because I think, in truth, in my opinion, in what God's calling me to do lately, and before we'll get into mania and all that crap. I'm not manic. Okay. I have type 2 bipolar disorder. I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Most important part of my diagnosis, biggest problem. I got this big old, look at this. I got this big old whiteboard I'm going to draw on sometimes when I'm doing my little talks. So up at the top, complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm not going to do it right now. I'm not going to draw because I did this nice PowerPoint and I'm just going to throw my hands around and that should cover it. The PowerPoint in my hands should cover enough visual aid. But complex post-traumatic stress disorder is the biggest problem I have that we're dealing with. Type 2 bipolar disorder is a secondary development from complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and it is, instead of likely not a genetic inheritable condition, the type 2 bipolar is likely the side effects of deep see, we're going to talk about disassociation. You see what I just did there where I disappeared? That's disassociation. That is the more unhealthy option of the options I have. I'm going to get into the different options I have of addressing complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Unfortunately, I only have two. I have two modes of being that are available to me, and neither of them's fun. And we'll grieve that together. We're going to close our eyes and we're going to pray. Okay? God, I ask that you help me to enable my softer parts, my smarter parts, my more mature parts to handle this difficult conversation. In Jesus' name, amen. I like doing the cross. I'm not Catholic, but it makes me feel good, so I do it. So meet the sunshine system. Let's get into it. What is the sunshine system? The sunshine system is my uh, collection of identities, alters, and trauma personalities. The reason I have chosen this stained glass image that I generated with AI, I hate AI, so if you're a true, genuine human artist that would like to help me with graphic art for my presentations, please contact me. But for now, I use AI and I just tweak it and prompt it till I get what I want. So the reason I chose a stained glass image of an angel with a real crazy brain huddling and sad over some sad people hugging one another is that is a visual representation of what's going on inside of me. The higher angel and the higher being represents my rational mind. It represents it represents not a personality, but a function of intellect. It is my psychologist's belief that my intellect is pushing the edges of savant hyper intellect, a few different terms for it. I'm a smarty pants, okay? I'm a medically diagnosed smarty pants. I had a college reading level at 5th grade, okay? And it actually makes my condition much harder to treat because you have to adjust for this hyper intellect and go, okay, this being, this alter, this trauma personality is as intelligent as a college student, but has the emotional maturity of an 8-year-old, right? So that's why it's important for me to acknowledge that intelligence. It's not a matter of bragging or whatever. It's not mania. It's not hypomania. It's part of a necessary understanding of my mind so that we can treat the problems I have. So that angel represents my hyper intellect and my rational self. It is not an identity. It is a being that drives the car. And so I'm constantly calculating my higher self, my rational self is constantly trying to calculate and reparent all of these different trauma personalities and alters inside of my mind to try to have the healthiest expression of this abnormal system. But if you're somebody that loves me and your instinct watching this is, can we just get normal Colten back? I need you to grieve the death of normal Colten. There never was a normal Colten. There never will be a normal Colten. Okay? I was so broken at such a young age. My environment was so traumatic that it is impossible for there to be a complete, whole, assembled Colten. So what Colten is a system, not one person. It's a system of beings, trauma personalities, alters, trying to navigate a complicated reality. And I know what you're thinking. Isn't the doctor supposed to fix that? Isn't that what you're doing all that therapy for? I have bad news. This is the diagnosis. Okay? This is a terminal, incurable condition. Okay? So if you're asking, why is Colton not pushing harder on getting a regular job? Probably because it's going to be hard for me to have a regular job for my entire life. So I need to figure out a different pathway to feed my family and my son. What this system is good at is being creative, is being interesting, is being exciting, terrifying, hard to look away from. That's what I'm good at. I'm hard to look away from. Even if it's a train wreck, it's hard not to watch. So, my journey of healing is going to be very public, very ugly, very uncomfortable. And I'm not going to filter or make it easier for you unless you're my mother, brother, or sister. Those people I will try my best to shelter from it because they're so close to it that I understand because they're a part of it. They're a part of the system that built this. So they had their own journeys of healing that I don't want to accidentally prick. And I have a little bit here and there. Okay. A lot of my protector parts, when we get there, are very immature. Okay. We're going to take a break here. Come back. The higher mind is trying to wrangle all of these trauma personalities. Okay. And that's not an easy thing to do because every single one of them is very broken. They are formed during highly stressful, highly traumatic experiences and seasons of life. One such example, that is a protector, is the inner rebel. Okay. I was 15, so it has the emotional immaturity of a 15-year-old. But the intellect of a college professor or slightly younger. Okay? So we have to work with both of those realities at the same time. So he can be very destructive because he's very smart. He can build a system of rebellion that does a lot of damage because he's very smart. But he doesn't execute that well all the time because he's 15. Because when I was 15, came home from a bad day at school. Dad's being his psychotic self. He's making me sign a contract that explains the terms of my punishment, right? Which was my mom's idea, but I get where it comes from because she said we always forget our punishment. So we're going to put it in writing. She's just asking Dad to handle a simple parenting task of, can you get the kids to sign the contract? Whatever. Now, little 15-year-old me is a rebellious asshole, right? But I'm 15. That's normal for 15. You're trying to establish your identity. You're trying to figure out who you are. It's not going to be pretty all the time. So I stand up, I rip the paper, and I go, I'm not signing this shit. Right? My dad, how does he handle that? I want you to take a second before I tell the story of how my dad handles it to think, if you're a parent, how do you handle that with a 15-year-old? Even if you've had a bad day at work, it's been a long day, you're tired. Here's how I handle it if it's Finn doing that at 15, okay? Finn, come on, man. Like, chill out. Take a walk. We'll talk in a minute. Take a fucking walk, okay? Come back when you calm down. Don't go too far, but go outside, walk it off. We'll talk in a minute. Firm. Distancing us from the emotion. I'm saying, hey, 15-year-old Finn, dude, that, too much. You're going overboard, bud. Too much. Go take a walk, though. You're 15. I'm not going to come down hard on you. Take a walk, chill out. I'm going to catch my breath before I do something stupid, too. We're each going to take a breather separate from one another, and we'll talk some more once we've calmed down. Right? My dad, when I did that, looks at me like this: evil, anger, hatred, a desire for domination. I'm going to get close to the camera. And he chases me. Those eyes, right? Coming at me. These eyes. Because I'm fighting his domination. He wants to dominate. He wants power. He doesn't care about love. He wants control. So he rushes me, 15-year-old, picks me up as I'm trying to run away from my life, picks me up. The other kids are witnessing this. Slams me on a pool table like it's a bar fight. I'm going to be honest with you. This is one of the less bad moments. Okay? So you need to understand this is a pattern. And this is one of the less terrible times. Slams me on a pool table, tells me he's going to effing kill me as he's pinned me down, screaming at me with murder in his eyes. Okay? I know what murder in the eyes looks like because I've seen it in my dad a few times. Let's take a deep breath. I'm going to go smoke a cigarette after that and come back. And we're going to talk more about complex post-traumatic stress disorder and why I have this GoFundMe up and what my intentions are with these projects. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm back. Sort of. You see that? Okay, disassociation. You just watched it happen. Did you see the way I looked down and went away for a minute? You saw that, right? That is the less healthy of the two options I have available to me. That's the more dangerous one. It's the more dysfunctional one. That is where my suicidal ideation lives. That is where the real danger for my mental health lives. This is why I can't go back to normal. Because I want to tell you what happened. After that experience at 15, I went to school the next day. Because what Dad did is when Mom got home, who wasn't there to witness it, so she didn't get the full picture of just how ugly it was and how much murder was in his eyes, is my dad, likely not intentionally, but it's a trick he does a lot, cries, he turns into a child for my mom. My mom has a maternal instinct, right, that her son is wounded. So my dad starts to have this bawling breakdown of, I'm so sorry, blah, 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 converts himself to a role of almost an older brother instead of a parent to escape accountability for what he did by redirecting my mother's maternal instinct toward him. So I just have to go back to the school next day because my dad apologized. How much of this he does unconsciously or intentionally doesn't matter to me. And it shouldn't matter to you because I was a child. And the damage that does to a child is very real. And that is low grade for all the things that happened to me. That's lower level. That same year, two older boys, senior, junior, I have long hair like this, right? Y'all remember me in freshman year of high school. Long hair, pink shirts. Okay, we're going to get to all that later. There's an egg arc happening. There probably won't be a Blaha shark, but there is an egg arc happening. And if you don't get that joke, don't look it up or bother with it. The people I want to get it will get it. Okay? And those of you that don't get it, don't worry, we'll talk about it when the time comes. What I meant by that joke. So, two older boys come up to me that same year. I can't remember before or after, doesn't really matter. put their finger up my butt and say, bet you like that. So everywhere I go, I'm unsafe, I'm scared, I'm being sexually harassed, physically assaulted, whether it be at school or at home. Nowhere is safe except for church. But y'all didn't keep that safe, and we're going to get to that. Some of y'all, not the kids, you were kids with me in that church. Fine. But some of you adults, I got a reckoning to have because I got to reparent a younger kid, and I'm real upset with the way y'all treated that kid, and I'm going to get mean about it. We're not going to do it in this video, but it's coming. With the under church, my intention is to flip some tables because a lot of y'all got too fat, happy, and comfortable. Y'all need to wake up. I've never been comfortable. I've never been happy. I've never been fat because I've been afraid from the moment I hit my fucking. I was afraid before I was born. I'll get into that altar. But there's an altar, and this is why I don't blame my mom for stuff. But there's an altar within me that implies my mom was being so traumatized and dominated while she was pregnant with me that I formed a trauma neuro pathway in my mind as I was in the goddamn womb. So, I'm not going to suffer no fools. It's uncomfortable for you? Fine. Get over it. Imagine living it. Okay? So we're going to go back to the nice guys. I'm sorry. I let the protectors show up because I talked about some difficult trauma. So one of the mean guys showed up because that mean guy is a representation of the environment I'm in and trying to survive. So the Sunshine System is a collection of alternate identities. I understand all of this is uncomfortable. I understand why you're unsettled. It's difficult for me, but it is under control. It is being managed with medical professional help. And I do have a rational treatment plan and a rational explanation for everything that I'm doing right now, even though it's very odd. I do have a good reason. So, complex post-traumatic stress disorder is a mental health disorder that comes from severe, repeated, constant trauma. Alters and trauma tributaries. So an alter is a trauma response usually caused by severe and/or complex trauma. They are often reflections of the ideas, imagination, and protection mechanisms available to the patient at the time. Often this is rooted in trauma at a very young age, and therefore, because it rewires the actual neurological pathways permanently, it's incurable because those neurological pathways are permanently altered. So if you're asking, why won't Colten just get a regular job and go back to normal? Because what you're doing is pushing me back into disassociation. Because that's the place I had to live to survive school, to survive home. So when I go to work, what is that trigger? It's called the normal trigger. I'm hiding the abuse again. I'm hiding the ugliness again. I'm hiding my woundedness again to protect the image of a monster. That is no longer the arc I'm being called to live. Not by God, not for my health, not by my doctors. Okay? I understand all this is uncomfortable. But again, please try to empathize with me and imagine what it's like living it. Again, that account of trauma I gave you earlier is low level for what I have. Some of these alters and trauma tributaries speak to some very sick stuff. Okay? We'll get into it. If you want to know more about, if you're seeing the word sexual included when I document my abuse, I'm not going to take that down. I have very good reason for why I'm using that. And if you want to ask me further about it, ask me, not my mom, not my brother, not my sister, because we don't need to drag them out earlier than they need therapy and to process things too. Okay. And I've had some slip ups where things have made it to them that I didn't mean to. I'm still learning how to use social media and how to silo information appropriately, trigger warnings. This is all new to me, but I can't do it by waiting till I have it perfect. I have to just do it and get better as I go. Let's talk treatment plan. Colten has complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So what do we do to fix this? Bad news, we can't fix it. So let's start there. It's not curable. A lot of mental health conditions, for example, I also have type 2 bipolar disorder. That one I can put into a state of remission. It's not curable, but I can put it into a state of remission so that, if I watch my sleep, I manage my health, I take my medication, all things I do, and am currently doing, then the bipolar can actually be put into sort of a state of remission where it's not happening frequently or much at all. And so, for the most part, my bipolar is in remission. I'll have an occasional hypomanic flare up here or there, but the reality is with type 2 bipolar disorder specifically, the manic part is just hypomanic. You're not full manic. So it's a overestimation of your ability, not a complete delusion, right? So when I'm in a hypomanic state, I'm bad at timelines, but the ideas I come up with often are achievable. I just way overestimate ability timeline. Okay. I don't have a view of I don't go into a state of like thinking I'm a prophet or a martyr or anything crazy like that. That's not even a part of type 2 bipolar. So we only have to worry about hypomanic episodes, which to be frank is one of my easiest symptoms to catch and manage. Because the first sign is that if I start sleeping like 4 hours and I'm not tired, I go, oh, here we go, hypomania. So my rule is I don't spend money on anything new during a hypomanic episode, and I am careful with how I engage with social media or whatever. And I try to like take my medication that helps me get to sleep. I have Klonopin for that. I don't take that because of my complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I don't use that for my anxiety or my fear because my anxiety and fear is a permanent state, so that would become addiction. Um, so I only use it for managing hypomania, and I so rarely have type 2 bipolar flare-ups that like I just have a backlog of that medication because I just don't need it that much. Because as long as I go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time, for the most part, we're good. Um, and type 2 bipolar is probably just a uh, situational development from my complex post traumatic stress disorder because some of the worst moments of abuse happen at night. You can take what that means for yourself, right? So I have a lot of nightmares about burglars coming in my house, people coming through doors at night to get to me. That is anyone who knows me knows that's a recurring nightmare I've had since I was very young. That comes from somewhere, okay? The story of me sitting out at my door with a sword and a Bible, chanting at that door, that fear and anxiety comes from somewhere, okay? So again, I know like accepting who my father was is going to be shocking for a lot of y'all, but we got to fix our spiritual security problems. That's what the underchurch is going to be about, which I'm going to do a separate video for. This is about my diagnosis. This is about the Sunshine Project. This is the first part of the puzzle. And so the treatment strategy is to engage the fight or flight response as often as possible to avoid states of dissociation, which is a more destructive system. I can't remember if I talked about, I'm going to go back because I don't think I talked about the Diagnostic Statistical Manual update in this recording. I think that got lost. So we'll do that again. Complex post-traumatic stress disorder, basically, they updated the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. That's what they, like psychologists, psychiatrists use to diagnose and treat patients, right? And so it's sort of like the board gets together and works on strategies and they all agree and yada, yada, yada. Boring administrative stuff. But, and hey, if you're watching this and you want to offer me a scholarship to your college for psychology, I do want to go back to school for psychology and finish my degree. Please contact me. I would love to do that, but I need financial help. So basically, what happens is all the dissociative disorders, so multiple personality disorder, for example, my case, um, split personality disorder, dissociative disorders, derealization disorders, all of them come from complex trauma. So we've now moved, so clinicians, not we, clinicians have now moved, because I'm not a clinician, I'm just a patient. Clinicians have now moved um, all the dissociative disorders down under complex post-traumatic stress disorder, this umbrella term. And so the treatment for it, the reason for that is because the treatment largely is the same with some minor variations across the wrinkles. But the main treatment strategy is to engage the fight or flight response, so your fear system, as often as possible to avoid states of disassociation, which is the more destructive symptoms. And the fight or flight response we're going to talk about, I'm going to do in one of my sermons. I call it the window to truth because you actually have four options. So it's like a window: fight, flight, fawn, freeze. So the reason I call it the window to truth is because when you're awake, when you're afraid, that's when you're most alert. So by a great way to build critical thinking skills, build better systems of spiritual security, we'll talk about it, is by getting to be friendly with your fear response, understanding it instead of being afraid of it and running from it. Because running from the fear response is disassociation, which is the less healthy option. And I'll get into it when I talk about social media and our Luciferian light boxes, right? Okay, I'll get into that because a lot of these social media and media complex at large actually encourages you to disassociate, and I'm saying that's an unhealthy. As someone who's had it ruin their life for the last 35 years, I'm telling you, I would rather be afraid. Okay, and so because look, if you're somebody who's like, well, at least you don't look like you're in pain when you're disassociating. I'm still in pain. I'm just disconnected from the pain. Imagine what kind of childhood you had to have to develop that as a constant problem. You understand? I'm fighting it from the moment I wake up till I go to bed. Think about the childhood I had to have for that to be the symptom. Okay? So I understand a lot of you are in shock about the allegations I'm making, but the symptoms speak for themselves. We are going to trust the symptoms, not illusions. Okay? I'm here to break some illusions. It's not going to be comfortable, but we need to get it done. So with allowing the mind to completely and entirely retreat and escape, it helps you survive the pain of existence, but it's not the healthier option because I'm not going to be able to apply for jobs if I'm disassociated. I'm not going to be able to work if I'm disassociated. So, we're going to talk about my personal treatment strategy, which is the under church and the LTN network projects. I am only focused right now on what I'm calling the sunshine system, right? That's taking care of my health, taking care of my son, making sure that I'm the best being possible to protect him and care for him. But that requires me to be honest and say, I need a little support, guys. I do. I wish that were not the case, but I do. The government shut down. I can't access unemployment. I need to probably apply for disability. I need to get my diagnosis updated so I can apply for disability. But I want to be a productive member of society still. And the healthiest way for me to do that is to, with a little bit of government benefits for a bit, to get me get this underchurch thing off the ground. Because I do believe that with time, this will generate enough income to pay the bills for my kid. And so I'm going to try to find like a temp gig or a part-time gig in the interim. But just know that there's a reason that my focus seems in a direction that maybe from your perspective seems misaligned, but there's very good medical reason and personal reason for why. So I'm going to jump into that next.